clock is 8 o'clock. Ms. Pierce?
Okay. Good afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute to introduce the team. I know almost everybody knows who everyone is, but Mr. Bailey might not know everyone. So just if we'll take a minute and go around the room so that Mr. Bailey and all the other board members will know who you are and what role you play in the school system. So Dr. Lockhart, you want to begin?
Yes. Craig Lockhart, Deputy Superintendent.
Erica Robinson, Executive Financial Manager.
Shannon Buff, Director of Secondary Education.
Benjamin Roundtree, Director of Elementary Education.
Jan Lumens, Director of School Nutrition.
Mike Barr, Operations.
Tom Garrett, Director of Facilities.
Sherry Vineyard, Director of Public Relations.
Tim Schmidt, I'm the CTAE Coordinator.
Allison Jordan, Director of Testing.
Darren Berry, Director of Student Services.
Sheila Thomas, Director of Federal Programs.
Alan Satterfield, Director of Special Education.
Nairi Sanders, Director of HR.
So thank you all for being here for our special called meeting to have a conversation about our budget. And I just want to go on the record to say that this team has really worked very hard. Probably they would have liked to kick me out on many occasions because we've spent many, many hours reviewing and looking and examining and trying to come up with every single penny that we could find to make sure everything that we do is accounted for in our budget. It's also important to note that this is the first time that Ms. Robinson has conducted this portion of our meeting without completely all on her own. So she's done a fantastic job. Last year this time she was with Peggy, and Erica is, I must say, looks at our budget with an auditor's eye. So she has found places where we've had to put money in different locations, different functions and object codes, just to make sure that we are in line with all of the things that we need to be in line with. And so I'd like to thank Erica for her hard work. She will tell you that she spent many, many nights thinking about this budget and helping us ensure that it's the very best budget that we could put forward. And I'd like to also thank our team for their hard work and dedication to ensuring that we do what's right for children and for our staff. And I think the best place to start would be behind the presentation tab. And Erica is really going to lead us through this, but I want to just take 1 minute and acknowledge the work of the board prior to this evening with the budgetary adjustments that have been made since fiscal year 14. And we just call them add backs. And I have been sharing this document with our teachers as I've taught with them in school chats. And I know that you don't need me to read this to you, so I will spare you the dialogue of running through every item on the list. But I think the most important part to point out is the shaded green area, which is a subtotal of sustained adjustments. So what that means is that anything that's shaded in green, the expense associated with the item must be sustained from year to year. So it's not a one-time expenditure. And the board has added back, in terms of our employees and our children, a total of over $17.5 million. Of that $17.5 million, just under $13.1 million must be sustained. So each time we make a decision, it has to be considered 2, 3, 4 years out what the implications of the decision is and whether or not it can be sustained, because our employees wish for us to not have to take it back once we do something. So I think we've done a great job given our resources. I'd also like to acknowledge that our local digest has improved, but still not at the rate of improvement that it needs to improve, simply because our expenses and the state allocations continue to I'm just distracted by everybody moving around there. That's okay. So the local digest has not improved as quickly as we would need it to improve. So we want to keep a very close eye on our expenditures so that we do not position ourselves to make decisions that require us to go backwards. So with that, I'd like to turn the conversation over to Erica. Unless there are any questions. Anybody have any questions about the add backs?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we will continue on after the presentation tab. So our first slide here details our state revenues and the increases that we are expected to receive for FY17. So if you're looking at your presentation there, you'll see that overall there's a $3.4 million increase that we are expected to receive in state revenue for FY17. The majority of that is going to come from the austerity reduction. They did cut our austerity reduction by about $3.6 million. Now, we do have an increase in our local fair share as well as a decrease in our equalization, and that is due to the increase that we received in our tax digest. So as our tax digest goes up, our local fair share is also going to go up and our equalization is going to go down. Are there any questions about that? So on the next page, I have the 8-year history of the M&O Tax Digest. These are the actual tax digest numbers through FY16, and we do not have the FY17 numbers yet. We won't get them until late June, early July. So that's why FY17 is not on here. I did reach out to the tax commissioner's office, and they are expecting a small increase, but we don't know the exact number yet. So from 15 to 16, there was about a 5% increase in the tax digest, and that brought us down from 2009, the difference to about $12 million. So we're still below where we were back in 2009, but we are slowly headed in that direction.
And if I may, just to point out that we are at 20 mills. So if the digest increases, it will be to our benefit at 20 mills, because when you look at 2008-9, we were 18.21 mills. And so at a higher millage rate, we're still collecting less than we did in 2009, even with the increased millage rate.
The next page details the major expenditure increases that we have proposed in the budget for FY17. The first item that we have listed there is a 1% permanent pay raise for all our employees, and that's going to be an approximate cost of $1,250,000. There is also going to be an increase in the health insurance for our non-certificated employees of $100 per month per member, per participating member. And that's going to amount to about $515,000. We also did a salary study last year, and we were not able to put everything into place that was recommended in the salary study on last year. There was a small piece left out, and so we are proposing that for the FY17 school year, we address that last piece of the salary study, and that's going to be to adjust select non-certificated positions based on the results of that salary study, and that cost is going to be approximately $350,000. And there you see listed below the groups of personnel that would be affected by that adjustment. We also have some instructional software and materials, as well as maintenance for technology, and that's going to be an increase of about $230,000. For professional and contracted services, as well as our liability insurance, all of that combined is an increase of approximately $165,000. And lastly, we are requesting an increase into our public relations budget for a new website design as well as new publications, and that's going to amount to about $40,000. Are there any questions?
Just one observation here. I hate to be the first one to ask the question, but I see basically as I relate to the different categories of personnel It's 5 categories. I didn't see the bus drivers, my favorite group.
The salary study did not show that the bus driver's salary was out of line with the 8 districts to which we compared ourselves. Did not show that there was a differential.
Thank you.
But they'll get a 1% pay raise this year. If you approve the budget, everybody in the district, including bus drivers, will get a 1% pay raise.
Ms. Becker, you have a question?
I do have a question. It's about the staff that's non-certified on the health insurance costs. So those costs keep going up every year, and I just wanted to know, was there like a projected cost yearly that is going up, or what's the estimated cost that it seems to increase every year?
We don't have an answer as to when they're going to stop increasing it.
Okay.
My guess would be that they're trying to get it to the same amount that we pay for certified employees.
Okay.
So after this $100 increase, that would be one more $100 increase after that.
Okay, yeah, it seems it's every year, so I just want to know. Thank you.
On the next page, we have a chart that shows our budgeted expenditures for the general fund for FY17. And as you can see, the majority of our budget is salary and benefits at just under 88%, followed by repairs and maintenance, which is at 3.91%. The next chart details how the salary and benefits are broken down by function. So of that 88% of the budget, this slide tells you which function is charged to. So the majority of it is charged to function 1000, which is our teachers and our counselors, our parapros, our technology specialists. All of those personnel are included in function 1000. So they make up about 77% of function 1000. And if you go on, down through the list, you can see the different percentages. If any of you have any questions about what makes up these functions, I can answer those for you. Moving on to our budget proposals, we do have 4 charts that I'm going to go through. The first chart, Chart A, it does not have any budget adjustments, so it would not include a 1% permanent pay raise, and it would also not include the adjustment for the non-certificated positions that were identified in the salary study. And so with this chart, by 2018-2019, our ending fund balance would be projected at $12.5 million, which is above the recommended 7%. Chart B would include the classified adjustments that were identified in the salary study. It would not include the 1% permanent pay adjustment. So with this option, the ending fund balance at 2018-2019 would be about $11.5 million, which is just right at the recommended 7%. Chart C, this is a chart that is reflective of the budget that we built. It has a 1% permanent pay raise, and it also includes the classified adjustments for the that were recommended in the salary study. So with this chart, the ending fund balance is projected to be about $7.7 million, which it is below the recommended 7%. However, we have not included in our budget any increases in the tax digest. So this ending fund balance that we are projecting right now is going to go up. On Chart D, this chart includes the permanent 1% pay raise. It also includes the classified adjustments that were identified in the salary study. And it also includes a 0.5% increase in our 403B contribution for all TRS employees. With this chart, our ending fund balance at the end of 18-19 would be about $6 million, which is below the recommended 7% by about $5 million or so. The next chart is for information purposes. We do this chart to compare ourselves to some of the other surrounding districts to show the per pupil expenditures. So for FY15, which is the latest data that we have, we came in 4th out of 7. So when you look at the per pupil total expenditures, we are 4th from the top. In FY14, we were 5th, and in FY13, we were last. So we are improving on our per pupil expenditures. And the last page just shows how we spend our funds in comparison to the state as a whole. So for instruction, which is the last bar graph down there, we spend more than the state by about 2%, give or take. And we also, under general administration, we spend less than the state by about 2%, give or take. So this is just for information, just to see where we are in comparison to everyone else in the district, or in the state, I'm sorry.
Are there any questions about what you've heard up to this point?
The general fund budget is behind the presentation, so for your review. So if you have any questions at a later date, you can email me or Ms. Fury, and we can answer those questions for you.
Unless you have any now.
As usual, I got a couple.
Okay. We'll do our best, Mr. Johnson, to answer them.
The fact and the function, I'll give you the page as I get to the questions.
Okay.
Let's try page 13, the expenditures.
Page 13. I just don't have page numbers.
Which function is that?
1,000.
Function 1,000.
Instructors.
Can you tell us what line item you're looking at when you get to it?
As soon as I can find it. Okay, it's, fading on me now. The first 5 was grade 6 and 8, 9 through 12, new and old replacement science adoption.
Oh, okay. We don't have page numbers for some reason on our copy, so give us a second to locate it.
That's right here.
It looks a little bit, ours looks a little bit different. So it pulls all of those together.
Function 1,000.
Yeah.
What did you say, those science?
Shannon and Ben, the science adoption line, you guys would know.
You see that?
At the top, does it say C&I grades 9 through 12 USA test prep? Okay.
On our page, it's got, to here, they got shifted. Is that it? Grades 9 through 12.
Do you remember what your question was, or?
Yes, explain the difference between the new and the replacement. I understand the words, but,
So the state has an adoption schedule that we go by, and basically they tell us what year we have to review textbooks for adoption. This does say for new science books, but we found out actually just a week ago that the state has decided not to adopt science textbooks next year. So we actually won't be doing any kind of science adoption. We've done a foreign language adoption this year. So your new textbooks would be if we are adopting a new textbook, picking new books. For example, for foreign language, they haven't had new textbooks in quite some time, and this year we are adopting new textbooks. Replacement would be if a student lost a book or if the book's damaged, those types of things. That's what it means when it says replacement.
so how does this impact the cost? That's my open question. If we're not, you found out 2 weeks ago that it's a change, how would this impact the budget number here?
Right. This number won't change because we actually took it out before you got it. So it would have been, I think it was like $1.25 million more, but since we're not adopting those books, we took that amount out, and what you see is the same number that we had last year for replacement texts.
Okay, thank you. I'll give somebody else a chance to ask one now. While I'm waiting, page 29.
Can you get tell us what it is and what your question is, because this document is a little bit different than that one.
We'll have to go
That's the
to it.
raw document.
Well, that's what you're getting me.
Yeah, you know, right.
Here
It's
it
the
says maintenance and operations function 2600.
2,600?
Still on the same page. Yes, still on the same page.
I think maintenance and operations only,
It's,
yeah, 2 pages. 3.
it shows administrative positions 2.
Okay, the first line item is the salaries for custodial and school maintenance under 26.
I'm saying, okay.
I'm sorry?
We got it.
We just make sure we had one thing.
I think he's here.
Those are not new.
Administrative salaries.
Those are the current people. He's wondering what that means, right?
Yeah, it's going to next year's budget, and it's up here, so I'm assuming that it's going in 17 budget.
Yes.
Which line
So
item?
who are those people who are,
Administrative salaries, 2 positions.
Yeah.
Is it adding 2 positions?
No, it's 2 positions that we already had. Last year, one of them was in a different function, and so it was moved over to function 2600, so that's why you see an increase there.
okay, well,
Remember, Mr. Johnson, we have an auditor's eye on these books now. So it's, she's really making sure everything's in this one.
we got a layman here, that's why I'm asking the question.
I get it. I get it. You got it.
Okay, contract services.
Same page?
Yes, same page. You got the increase in the security from the sheriff, almost $100,000.
When I was reviewing the budget this year and looking at the contract, I did realize that the amount last year that was in the budget was not correct. So the amount that you see this year is the amount that is the actual amount that's on the contract.
Thank you. If no other questions, I'll continue.
I have one. I'm
Go
just
ahead.
waiting to be recognized by the chair.
Well, I can't see you over there. Go ahead, Ms. Wright.
Okay, thank you. It's just a clarity question for me, and it has to do with the charts, actually. Because on there, so I need clarity to understand why and it goes back to when I asked you about the health insurance increase. So like FY17, you have 515, but then FY18, it goes down to 500. So why wasn't it done at the same price?
It's just an estimate that we use. The amount that the way that we budgeted, we budget by percentage, so percentage of participation. So the percentage of participation for FY16 warranted $515,000. So it's just an estimate.
So then I got another question, a follow-up question, if I may. Okay, so if you're budgeting for the same percentage, or by the percentage of participation, again, I still don't understand why the number wouldn't remain the same. And then if we keep seeing an increase, why we wouldn't increase it. I just don't, over the course of years, I know it's only 15,000, but that adds up year by year. And so I'd rather see a more realistic number. So I'm just asking, why wasn't it done at the same or even increase the number?
I mean, we can increase it if that's what we need to do, but I mean, I just did it based on percentages. I mean, there's no guarantee that the percentage of participation is going to remain the same from year to year either, so it's really just a guess.
Yeah. And
You just want us to guess the same or more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even if we don't know the percentage, that people are going to continue to keep their benefits, I feel more comfortable if that is kept the same versus decreased.
Okay.
We can fix it, Ms. Baker.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Student transportation, function 27, page 32 and 33.
2,700.
The question is athletic transportation salaries. I see that you have the transportation for high school athletic events, course, band competition. For high school, and it's $25. High school, $50,000 for the high school, $25,000 for the middle. We don't have anything for elementary.
I didn't work on this part, but they don't have any athletic events that they, that we transport them for. If it's what I did was budgeted it in, we included it in the other
Field trips.
in the academic field trips, driver pay for academic field trips, because the only trips that they have, they don't have athletic ones, they'll have the competitions, so we just put it up in academic field trips.
Well, that's why I couldn't find anything, for that kitty. What function is that in?
I'm sorry, it's third from the top. There's 33,000 budgeted there.
Okay. Okay, and that's 32. Now, field trips for bus drivers again. They haven't had an increase in the past, I think, 10 years. Field trip. Why is it that we can't put something in there for the bus drivers? Here the employees get off 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, driving at a roughly rate of maybe $16 an hour. Go to the next school or the same school, pick up a load of kids, and the pay rate dropped to $10 an hour. They have the same responsibilities, same road, same students. Why do we continuously to make the choice of underpaying our bus drivers?
Okay, and so that's something we could certainly look at, is field trip pay, and thank you, Ms. Lemons, for field trips. However, it's important to remember when that rate goes up, the school pays for some of the costs. They raise money to pay those bus drivers. And so unless we're willing to take on that total responsibility within our budget, it would be very difficult for some of the elementary schools and other schools to pay for field trips.
Well,
And so it's sort of a balance between paying the driver and making sure that students have trips that they can participate in.
I appreciate your comment, but neither should it be on the backs of our bus drivers to do that financing.
Right.
That's my point,
And-
why I'm bringing it up. We don't seem to see anything other than the scenario that you just mentioned, year after year. It's time to change the ballgame.
Right. And I would just mention as a note that that is a voluntary responsibility that the drivers have, that they are able to sign up for that. It's not a forced responsibility.
Mr. Boyle, I think that statement is just not necessary to say they sign up.
Right.
What would you do if they said, no, I'm not going to run for $10 an hour? What would you do?
We've not had that occur, so we've not been faced with that. As
Well,
of yet.
I don't.
And if I may, they're not the only group of individuals that are not paid according to their value or worth. Our teachers are not paid for after-school programming, their hourly rate. Right now, we're working on $25 an hour. And it's for those groups of people, it's simply a function of the budget, trying to balance pay raises and trying to do the right things for all employees. You know, that, and I don't know what they do, Dina, in the after-school program, but
Same thing.
it's the
It's
same
less than
thing.
their hourly rate.
It's, so they're not getting, so it's, they're not alone is my point, that unless and until we can get everybody where they should be on the pay scale, I think that would be the next step. So I would look at, you know, considering raising the teachers' salaries and the administrator salaries for after-school programming. You know, they do athletic events and things like that where we would consider that once we get the salary stabilized from the beginning. Then that would be a layer 2.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think we've been working gradually on all of the employees. But here the bus drivers, over 10 years. Now, I think they've had ample opportunity to get something in this budget, increasing their pay.
Well, thank you very much.
I know that we don't have to pay with all, but, you know, from a pay standpoint, and I get into other, I don't think, and it's my opinion, I've been entitled to it, that they're not being treated fairly. And we should increase their pay. And matter of fact, we're in the budget, so I'm asking for your additional input and the boards to support increasing the pay.
Well, and my recommendation would be, at this point, we are increasing we are making a recommendation to increase everyone's salary at 1%. Once we achieve our goal that was recommended by the salary study, which was to return and restore everyone to where they would have been had there not been a recession, then I think we start looking at those other pieces. That's my recommendation, and certainly I'm, you know, trying to do and manage the budget as carefully as I can and take care of everybody all at the same time.
I hate to be redundant, but we got a ending fund balance on the last chart there of $11 million, and we carry that over.
It will not be $11 million. It will be $7 million if the board puts a 1% pay raise for all employees and
I'm looking at the wrong chart.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the non-certificated recommendations. If that happens, the ending fund balance is $7 million, which is less than the recommended 7%.
Okay, well.
So, but it's on the table, and
I'm bringing it to your attention.
I got it.
I'm concerned about it. I don't know about my other colleagues, but I'm very concerned about it.
Got it.
That we've gone so long. One more question, Mr. Chair.
You go ahead.
Page 33. Bus repair parts. In that, Mr. Farr, are we contracting out major components? The buses, what are we contracting out?
So what we typically contract out or outsource is large engine repairs that we do not have the training to conduct.
I can't hear you. The training to do what?
That we don't necessarily have the training to perform. Large engine repairs that are sort of outside the scope of the training that our fleet technicians have received.
And that's the only contract work that we outsource?
That's, to my knowledge, just large engine repairs is typically what we do.
Okay, if it's not to your knowledge, who should I consult?
You're asking the right person, but I can go through exhaustively, if you like, and try to answer that question.
Okay, I'll rephrase another question. Are you contracting out inspection work?
No, we are not. We had a company come in, and we did a trial run with about 10 or 12 buses. And so that process, really, what we learned from that process is that we need to ramp up our own inspection process, and we're in the process of doing that through training internally. And all the fleet technicians have received some training relative to bus inspections. So our goal is to move to a much more proactive system of fleet maintenance rather than a reactive system of fleet maintenance. And we think by doing so, that we will reduce some expenditures, and the buses, which is our ultimate goal, will be much safer.
Okay, well, thanks for your patience. I have one more question, and I'll be quiet. Page 36, Central Office Support and Services. 2800. It's on the surge protectors, technology, computer services. I don't know who to direct it to.
Melissa is, you have to ask, but Melissa has the norovirus. So I told her to stay home and do not come to the office today. And so if you have a specific question, I'll talk to her about it. Tell me what it is and then I'll talk to her.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Baker?
I have a couple of clarity and point of reference. Just going back to the, let me see how I want to do it first. Let me do the clarity, if I may, on the something that Mr. Johnson brought up on the academic field trips, like the bus drivers pay. Just a clarity. Who all would have to be increased? Because it's more than just the bus drivers that are underpaid. So I'm just asking for, I guess, the specific. We got after-school employees. Who else? The teachers?
Yeah, teachers in the after-school program, anybody who does summer work with children, any summer school programming, paraprofessionals who work beyond the contracted year. Ms. Baker, my brain is stopping right there. Assistant principals, lots of people go beyond their contracted year, and we don't pay them their hourly rate based upon their salaries.
Okay. So then my point of reference would be just in, I don't want to scare y'all, I'm not saying increase these people. I'm being realistic here. My point of reference on that would be that the bus drivers who are reimbursed by the schools, which a permission form goes home to the parents, and the school sets the price so that they can pay for these trips. Realistically, if we wanted to do something just for them, the increase would actually go to the parents versus us. And the school does not turn a child away if they cannot pay.
That's right.
Okay.
Something else with some clarity, I guess, from my understanding. In some of the trips, especially the organizations, don't they pay them that has nothing to do with the school, and they will pay the bus drivers to put certain trips?
And yes, but it's a very narrow use of school buses outside the, some government-related organizations do use a school bus, but it's very rare, is what I would say. But they do take care of those expenses when they do use them.
So probably the only fair and equitable way to address this would be to set a price across the board so that when there are any trips that everybody's charging the same thing, you won't get into the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? Is that reasonable?
We can certainly look at that and see how we price things across the board to everyone. But it is consistent within the school district what schools are charged.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because the reason I asked that question is I do know that some bus drivers would not take certain trips because of the pay, and it's volunteer, so they don't have to. But some would pick the trips that pays more than the one that pays less.
Right, and the way it's set up is that they're on a rotation schedule for the kinds of trips that they're interested in. So if they're interested in all trips, overnight, athletic, academic, then they're on a rotation cycle for those trips.
So they actually sign a list as to whether they want to
That's correct.
participate
Yes, sir.
in trips and whether they want overnight or just one day or whatever. So that's how it's assigned out.
Right. At the beginning of the school year,
Gotcha.
they indicate what kind of trips they're interested in to us.
You probably don't know this, just out of the top of your head, approximately how many bus drivers actually sign up? If you don't have that,
I know, but I can find out for sure a definite number for you.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Mr. Bailey?
It's actually back to the bar graph at the, kind of towards the beginning. And I know we're not comparing ourselves necessarily to other systems across the state, but I was curious to see, the general administration looked like a half according to what the state, norm is. Or is there and at the same time, we're talking about, raises across the board for instruction, which looks like we're 1.5 points higher than the state norm. Just curious to see what the reasoning for that might be. I mean, I know it's FY15 too, so we might be better off and we'll be a little closer in line than we were before.
Historically, in general administration, our district has been half of what the state is in that area. We are typically very lean in the general administration area, electing instead to put our resources in our schools and in supplies and different technology, et cetera. Over the last year, I will expect that you'll see a little bit of a shift in that we have added. Thankfully, our board has seen that we have been firing on all cylinders for a long time, and we've added positions to the general fund that will show a little bit of an increase over time, but we tend to stay a little lean in the administrative area.
Any other questions?
Can we go to the next, the SPLOST budget?
So next we'll talk about our SPLOST budget. So the first page that you see is a debt service schedule. So this page details the debt payments that we will have to make with our SPLOST money that we receive each fiscal year. So for FY17, the total amount that we'll have to pay is about $5.2 million between principal and interest payments. Now we will use our SPLOST dollars to pay for that, but because we have to pay for our debt payments out of our SPLOST dollars, that limits the amount of projects or construction or what have you that we might want to do with our SPLOST dollars. So that's why this page is in here, just so you can see what our obligations are for the remainder of these two bonds that we have outstanding. Any questions about the bond payments? The next page lists our FY17 proposed projects that we would use SPLOST dollars for. If you have any questions about any of these projects, we can take them now. If there are not any questions, we'll move on to the last tab, This is a summary of our budget. The first.
Can I excuse me, sorry? Go back to SPOS rate, capital project. That's it, right? Van equipment. That includes all schools in Pacific ones or instruments.
Secondary schools is what it focuses on. Last year, we made an investment of, I think, $135,000 in band equipment for secondary schools, and this would be a continuation of that effort, so that as equipment becomes in a state of disrepair or not repairable, then we're able to replace those instruments. So it's building money in to make sure that the program has the instruments that it needs.
For all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on SPOS? The last tab is a summary page of our budget. It includes the general fund budget, which is the first column, and so this summarizes everything that's under the general fund budget tab. Also on this sheet, we have all of our state grants and all of our federal grants that are summarized by revenue functions and expenditure function codes. We also have our capital projects, which you just saw on the eSPLOS tab, and our debt service budget, which is also on the eSPLOS tab. This page is what will be published in the newspaper once the tentative budget is approved. Are there any questions?
I don't have another question, but before we close it up, I want to plant a new seed and a new approach to a new idea to the board counterpart. Am I? No. What I want us to consider is doing some refurbished work at Sharp Stadium. And what I have envisioned is installing mobile cameras at Sharp Stadium for all of our Sharp Stadium events. And what that will do, it will create new pathways for us in learning kids how to use the cameras, production, and it could be used in some instances theater. And there are many avenues that we can open up by putting mobile cameras in Sharp Stadium, just like they have moving cameras on our college football stadiums. And another reason for that is, one is that we, in Newton High especially, we're moving to a category 7. And yes, the competition is going to be very sharp. And we're moving into an arena that's new. And some of our competitions, they got these, I understand it, mobile cameras. And on that, college recruiting is going down. We got to get to the media and utilize our own capabilities in production and promoting our athletes, all of them. And we can have the students make portfolios that they can use to take or email or send to the college recruiters. We got to get on top of that new mode. If we don't, we're going to be left behind, and our students are going to suffer because college recruiting is changing. And with those cameras, the coach or whoever's in charge can assign a feature or function or a particular player, do an outstanding document on him, and send it to a college coach. They don't have to come to campus. They won't come to campus now. And that's how we're going to have to get into new recruiting. Case in point, this year and last year, our private school segment is eating the Georgia High School Association alive in that perspective. If you've watched the TV this past year, they broadcast a private school game championship, then they rotate it to a public school championship. And if you looked at the schedule, time of day and date, you'll see that private school is on top of the prime time. If 2 o'clock is the prime time or 3 o'clock, that private school was there. Now, whether that's by hook or crook or failure or design, I don't know. But the evidence is there, and it was on TV. And in that presentation, they had their high school students zeroing in and promoting some of their top players. And what did they do? They went back through their portfolio, pulled it out, and showed it on state TV. This is a guy that's going to Georgia Tech. He's a junior now, promoting. We haven't gotten there yet. So we got to wake up, and all of what I'm saying is, we got to take some spot. Athletic is a part of our curriculum, whether we like it or not. I don't want to adjust it. So we got to step that up and be competitive in our athletics. And I think we'll be doing our students a disservice if we don't change the mode here and start getting going in that direction. And our career academy should benefit enormously from the different pathways that can be generated from putting mobile cameras in our Shaw Stadium. I hope each and every one will consider it and support the idea with additional information.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'd like to thank everyone who working so diligently at putting the budget together, make sure that we continue doing the things that are necessary to continue to move in our system forward in a positive way. And I really commend you for working hard to put this budget together. Steve, you have anything?
No, just thank you, board members, for supporting us as we continue to work to restore all of our employee benefits and to continue to propel our students to high academic achievement, as you witnessed as they come to our board meetings, and also athletic achievement as well. And also the team, just to reiterate what you said, they've worked really hard to put this budget together, and I'm extremely grateful to all of them for their service. You really have a great team in this district. You really do. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Just one final request or question. When will we receive the updated numbers with the adjusted health insurance? So that the ending fund balance looks a little bit more realistic.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll just email it out.
Any other questions in relation to the budget? Any other items of interest?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Baker, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Carter. All in favor,